anybody's ever driven down Blue Mound and seen the Evil Ice Rink, at one time my aunt Florence Evil owned that. She was my great aunt. She donated 40 acres on Blue Mound to the city of Brookfield. Can you believe that? She did it on the condition that the house would never be ripped down, that the barn would never be ripped down, there would be no development other than the ice rink. The house is gone, the barn is gone, right after she was gone. Think real hard about promises made to the community. Thank you.
My name is Dan Jaglowski. I live on 1230 Wisteria Lane in Waukesha, Wisconsin. I've been a resident of Waukesha County for over 42 years, and I also work in the village of Pewaukee here. I've not only listened to people tonight, but I've heard of what's going on here for the last how many months. I want to ask the board, if you went to the church here, if you knew people that lived by going to church and having funerals here and being brought up as baptisms and so forth and so on. Myself, I've been to weddings here. I've been to funerals here. I've been to baptisms here. And I did go to the services because my wife and I, when she was alive, we rotated every 3 months or so trying to different churches. Now, if you were members, you lived in the neighborhood, and so forth and so on, I'm asking you what you personally would think about for the village of Pewaukee, and I'm 100% against what they're trying to propose.
Good evening, my name is Amanda Schultz. I live at 202 Riverside Drive in the village of Pewaukee. I'm not terribly prepared with, as well prepared as some of the others speaking tonight, but I wanted to bring some concerns and also some research that I have compiled with regard to the proposed development at the Oak River Hills Nursing Home. I did some polling of the Southeastern Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission site. On there they have some economic profiles of communities nearby. First of which I want to point out are some housing statistics. Village of Sussex is 31% renter occupied. The city of Brookfield is only 12% renter occupied, whereas the village of Pewaukee on their document shows 39%. I heard another number tonight, documents were found citing 43%. This is a high number for our small community. I did find another article regarding the mix of housing types in traditional developments. Per a post on the Congress for New Urbanism Organization's website, written by editor Robert Stuteville. He cites market research by Zimmerman Bolt and Associates. I just want to read a brief highlighted sentence or two from his document. In hypothetical studies of housing mix, the research firm has suggested that a ratio of 39% rental housing to 61% for sale housing is an ideal for urban infill redevelopment. In an established suburban area, this ratio would change to 24% rental and 76% for sale. I ask that you consider some of this research, possibly do your own before making a decision on any additional multifamily housing in the village. Housing here is in high demand. My husband is a realtor, and we see firsthand the difficulty his clients have when looking within Pewaukee. We have a wonderful community with small town charm, and it's understandable why homes here are in such high demand. High density multifamily housing does little to add to the desirable aspects of our community. Doubling the size of the Riverside neighborhood raises concerns with safety of pedestrians. While the proposed multifamily development is a step in the right direction from previous requests to utilize the property, It still presents an option that we do not need in our community. Thank you for taking the time to consult with the developer tonight in this public forum, giving residents a chance to voice their concerns, while giving the developer a chance to present plans to both you, the commission, as well as village residents. I ask the commission might research or recommend single-family housing as an option for this property, or at the very least, owner-occupied housing, such as condominiums, in a density that would not exceed the allowance by those types of zonings. Thank you.
Is there anyone that hasn't spoken that would like to make a comment at this time? Okay, well, I thank you all for your comments. We will continue on. Item 4 is the regular planning commission meeting minutes approval dated September 12, 2019. I hope everyone's had a chance to look them over. Is there any questions, comments, corrections? If not, I'll look for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is hereby approved.
Abstain.
And one abstention, sorry. Okay, we're gonna make a jump here to item 6A, new business. Review, discussion, and consultative feedback on prospective rezoning to R6 flex residential with PUD overlay for a 27 lot multifamily residential development at 321 Riverside Drive. The applicant is Anderson Ashton Inc., NCO Matthew Mering. The property owner is Riverside 321 Partners LLC. The current zoning of the property is IPS, institutional and public service. Mary, would you like to?
Sure. It is a request for consultation on multiple fronts. Essentially, the project that you see on the screen would require several things. A land use plan amendment to begin with for the 11 acres situated on the west side of 321 of Riverside Drive. A land use plan amendment and a request for rezoning to an R6 flex residential type classification. Those would be part of what the applicant would be looking for feedback on, together with essentially a very preliminary sketch plan that shows the layout of 27 duplex buildings on 27 individual lots over the total 11.4 acres on this side of the street, on this west side of the street. The current zoning and land use designation of the property are I-1. And I guess what I'll tell you about that, and it'll come up again later in the meeting tonight, is about institutional classification of land use. In the village, historically, we have not designated land for institutional uses proactively. We have designated it reactively over sites that had pre-existing institutional uses at the time that the land use plan was adopted. And that was the case in this location, where there was a nursing home on the site for many years. That use has gone out of service, and so there is no approved use currently on the property. When it comes to land use planning, that really is the first in a two-step process. There is the planning and there is the zoning. Planning is really that looking forward, anticipating, bearing in mind the unique specific circumstance, the current environment surrounding it, and what you see as a suitable land use fit in a location like that. The zoning is the action step. Zoning effectively attaches in that list of permitted uses, the dimensional standards, the bulk standards, and so forth. So in this particular location, I think the commission is well aware that it is surrounded on two sides by existing single-family residential development. To the south, it is a Waukesha County-owned conservation area. And to the east, it is partly owned along the frontage by the same owner of this 11 acres, and then followed up by village-owned property that is a park and a community launch area. So that sets the stage for you in terms of what the surrounding environment is for this property.
Mary. Can everybody hear Mary?
Yes.
Yes, okay, I just want to make sure everybody can hear.
I'll try and move a little closer. With respect to R6 zoning.
Mary, just wanna take this one for now?
The limitations in the R6 zoning classification, I'm going to jump back to land use and tell you that the land use plan would have to be amended then to reflect a residential multifamily classification. Specifically, to accommodate this project, R6 would be the appropriate zoning classification, where the maximum density allowed is 8 units per acre on lots not less than 150 feet wide, and buildings not less than 2 per building, nor more than 4 dwelling units per building. So that sort of captures the requisite changes that would have to happen if the village planning commission were interested in considering this type of density over that 11 acres. There was a previous subdivision platted there, which on this 11-acre side of the street had about 32 single-family lots. Under today's circumstances, only about 29 of those would actually be buildable, because 3 of those platted lots are heavily encumbered by wetland and floodplain restrictions in the southeast corner of the site. So this is consultation. Do the details of this particular layout flesh out with respect to the required setbacks and offsets and open space standards? And all of that really remains to be determined when a more detailed plan would be put together. The request tonight is a much more global look at the environment surrounding the 11 acres and what you envision as a future land use for this site.
Tim, you have some comments?
I took a more technical look at the site as much as I could, given what site plan that they provided here. As Mary mentioned, in the southeast corner, there is primary environmental corridor, there is wetlands, and there is floodplain in that area. I did look at the soil maps for this, and it appears that the underlying soils from the old soil maps indicate hydric soils. So the provision of basements in this area may have to be checked to see if they were going to put in basements. I don't know if they were or not, but that may be an issue, whether or not basements would be allowed or desired because of the hydric soils. As far as utilities go, there is sewer and water that actually surrounds the site, both on Ridgeway and on Riverside Drive. There is a stub that comes off of Riverside Drive into the site, an 8-inch sanitary sewer. There is storm sewer that's on Ridgeway and on Riverside Drive as well. The stormwater management, they provided land for that. However, that would have to be fleshed out a little bit more as to whether that land set aside for that would be adequate or stormwater. I mean, they don't provide any details at this time. So additional land may have to be set aside for stormwater, only because the part of the land that they set aside might be in some of that wetland and floodplain.
Are there any questions from the commissioners?
General question, general or for the
Yeah.
engineer?
Is the applicant here? I guess first off, love the idea of switching it to residential. I mentioned that to the 321 partnership a couple years ago when one of the rehab centers was rejected, just removed. But I do have concerns about the multiplex. First question is, are these planning on being renter owned, or are these going to be side-by-side condos and actually sold?
Right now, the concept is more of apartments, looking at the areas and the apartments that are in the area.
You want, just go over my
That's fine, I can speak louder. The concept right now is side-by-side apartments, looking at it as part of 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom size apartments to see what are available, the quality of those in the area, see if there's an opportunity to take this parcel that we're trying to figure out what to do with and see if we can bring some more opportunity and more vacancy for the area.
Have we explored the cost analysis on making these condos, side-by-side condos rather than rentals?
Right now, it's purely just getting feedback from the board to see if this is something that you would be interested in, if it'd be supportive. There's, like Tim was talking about, there's definitely gonna have to be a wetland delineation, soil boring to see where the lines are and what opportunities we have for layouts. There might be less, there might be more buildable area that we're working with. The existing park has some opportunity in between the lots on the right side where the boat launch is. That's a community park that right now is not used very often. Is there an opportunity to incorporate that into this idea of this park?
Well, I guess I'll say my one piece in that.
Just for the record though, Commissioner, just so you're aware, you cannot make a decision on this application or any application based upon the form of ownership, which is the difference between renting and the condo development.
Correct.
So I understand you wanted that question answered for background. The bottom line is you cannot take that answer into consideration in deciding whether to approve a project or not.
Okay, thank you. Does not change my statement here. All for residential. I am not for multifamily. As has been already stated multiple times tonight, we are at the highest in Waukesha County, and I don't intend on making that worse. So absolutely for residential, if you could figure out some way to make these single family, make it R5, I will be your biggest champion. But in terms of multiplex, we just, as the village, I think we've reached our saturation point. That's my piece.
Yeah, Joe?
Question for the engineer on the hydric soils and the potential for lack of basements. This would be a big player both for this development and the other residential thinking. What's involved with getting an answer to the fact that we've got this situation to deal with?
In regards to, there would have to be a soil analysis done by a soils engineer for that. They would do soil borings out there, see if it's truly hydric soils or what's going on under there. And then, there could be accommodations for you know, for hydric soils, I mean, you can't really remove them, they're gonna be wet, you know, but people, my concern is to have basements that have sump pumps that are running constantly. So that may lend itself, those hydric soils may lend itself to slab on grade type of construction on this. So that's really, there'd have to be a deeper analysis to figure out what is really there. I mean, the soils show hydric, but that, they'd have to determine, well, is it just a couple of feet deep, or does it go down 6 feet deep where it's hydric? And how does it affect the basement level?
Okay, so then if I'm understanding your analysis at this point, then really we've got two big issues that we've got to really get some answers to. One is the stormwater sufficiency, and as well as the hydric soils. Those are the two big factors here.
There would be there'd be technical factors. I think the bigger picture is really the land use, you know, is really in my mind, it's the bigger picture, you know, if you're gonna allow this to be a land use to either be single family or multiple family, you know, the technical issue is can that be built? Yeah, so that would be the next step after determining, you know, if you're gonna allow it residential, then that would be the next step for the developer to figure out, can I build there? And what can I build if I do wanna build there?
Thank you.
Yes, sir. So, according to Mary said that, Mary's report says R6 typically requires 1 acre minimum lot size. Of course, we do have some flexibility on that, and in the past, we've made some flexibility, we've made some waivers. This is 2.5 times that though. I would not be comfortable in approving a development that's 2.5 times as dense as our requirements. Any other comments from the board? Yes, ma'am.
When I saw this item on the agenda, I was really pleased to see that we're looking at residential, units here. I also expressed concerns about the intensity of this development. I would like to see, we spend a lot of time as a board ensuring that our developments are, especially the commercial developments on Capitol, you know, the green space, we make it attractive, the plantings. You know, I'd like to see a little more areas in a development like this. Be it a little area where you have a gazebo and a park, a little park area, you know, something, I don't know. I'm very concerned about the stormwater, not only when you build a building, all the stormwater runs off the roofs, but then obviously there's driveways here and things like that. And I would like the questions answered that our infrastructure could support this. The water, the sewers. So those are just some of my thoughts.
Anyone else?
Jim, as a follow-up on that hydric soil, is that the entire property or just certain areas?
It's a large part of the center of it, I would say.
In the center?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not near the floodplain, something that's more centralized.
It does encompass a larger part of the center of what you see if you plan there.
Okay, yeah, all right, that becomes problematic, so, I mean, you've heard a lot of the comments, and what you're probably not aware of is that the board this year has been working on a strategic plan. And a big portion of the strategic plan has to do with development and redevelopment. And as we've gone through, we've surveyed the community, we've had input from a lot of the community leaders, and there isn't much of an appetite for the multiplex. The other conversations you heard and all the comments you had is a slightly different situation because at some point when we get the pre-proposal on the agenda, it's a multiplex, yes, but they fit the definition of IPS. What you're proposing here doesn't fit the definition of IPS, so the commission and the board does have the option of saying, no, we're not going to rezone it to that. However, in the same process that the board has gone through with the strategic plan, a lot of the general conversations that have gone on is that for the right kind of development, the village is prepared to make some investments. So I just want to have you keep that in mind as well. Now, whether the soil ends up being an issue that makes it a non-starter for any kind of development, I don't know. But just keep that in mind as far as, you know, the attitude of the board right now and the direction that we want to try and get in terms of more owner-occupied types of housing.
Okay, one question.
Mhm.
The size of those lots are similar to the neighbors as part of that subdivision. Would the board be agreeable when we talk about waivers and lot size and the minimum requirements for that to have smaller lots of that size?
I don't know what.
Are you speaking on making non-conforming lots to be able to get more development in there?
No, like the lot sizes that we have right there are similar in size to the subdivision that's there, the existing subdivision, so, and
The existing subdivision is single family.
Exactly, correct. So it's 1 acre minimum lot sizes that we're discussing as part of R6. Is it agreeable to have smaller lot sizes, basically?
And still keep it R6?
The R6 is necessary to get multiple dwellings in one building. So if you want duplex, 3 or 4plex, R6 is required. In the R5 district, the single family residential district, the minimum lot size is 10,500. However, as a part of the PUD, where a redevelopment project is concerned, we don't limit the overall density. Typically, you would say, well, how many lots could you get if you platted it straight out, 10,500 square foot lots? That's gonna be your cap, even as a PUD. In the case of redevelopment, the village's code makes an exception and says density can be whatever a suitable plan design can accommodate, subject to the planning commission's review and approval.
Any other comments or questions? I'd just like to say that, you know, we've gone down many paths in this area, from a drug and alcohol treatment center, which everybody wanted. And over the years, other realtors or developers have come to the board or the village and asked what could be built there. Scott will attest to this, that from what he and I and trustee Rhodey have seen from developers that have come in, this is probably the least intrusive of all the developments that people wanted to put in there. Most of them were 4, 6, 8 family units, all rentals, similar to what's on Moore Street. So we are headed in the right direction. We're getting smaller. To your point, yeah, the lot sizes are probably the same as a lot of the homes, but that's a single family home. It's not a 2-family. I would like to see, I think the neighbors in this area wouldn't have a problem. I'm not speaking for them, but I don't think I would have a problem if you could make this a single family subdivision. You know, the lot sizes are within what the guidelines are for single families that are correct, Barry?
They're very close, yeah,
Yeah.
to what could be designed in terms of 10,500 square foot lots. Even smaller if it were done in a cluster type neighborhood design.
And I have heard from a lot of the developers that now the average home price to build an average home of 1,500 to 1,800 square feet is about $350,000 because of the cost of materials and everything, and putting in sewer and wire lines and the roads and that. But I'd like you to, if you could, go back and sharpen your pencil and see if this could become a single family development in some ways. Is there a TIF district possible? That would be something that we would have to look at for helping you tear down the building that sits there. because I know that is gonna be a costly situation. But we're headed in the right direction, I guess is what I'm trying to say to you and to the people that live in that area. You know, we went from the major developments to this, and hopefully the next one we can get is something more in a single family line. Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment at this time?
I'll wrap it up, Jeff.
Okay, take it home.
I'll take it home here and, kind of jump on what Commissioner Grabowski, started with and acknowledging the attorney's comments about us not being able to make a vote based on occupancy, ownership, or rental, but I think, it's pretty obvious that the appetite in the community is more for ownership. So I think we are definitely heading in the right direction, and it's great, and I think, if a plan can be put together where there's an opportunity for ownership, and even variety within that community, so they don't all look like the same exact building. I'm assuming that was kind of your vision. I think we'd be very interested in seeing something like that moving forward.
Need any more information?
No, feedback on this is perfect.
Okay, I hope to see you with Scott.
Please come back.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for.
Thank you very much for coming to the planning section with this idea.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, we're gonna jump down to old business, item B, then we're gonna go to C, then we're gonna go to D. I would first like to get a motion to remove from table the item B, which is the land use plan amendment. I will look for a motion to do that.
I'll move to remove that from the table. Seconded.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to remove. Any questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Zampa?
Aye.
Commissioner Mann? Aye. Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Lane?
Aye.
Commissioner Grabowski?
Aye.
Trustee Roberts?
Yes.
President Knudsen?
Yes. Okay, we have removed that from the table. Item 5C. I will look for a motion to remove from the table the rezoning aspect.
I make a motion to remove it from the table.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mark, do I really need to?
No, you don't. This is procedural, you do not.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that has been removed from the table. And item 5D, remove from table the certified survey map. Look for a motion to do that.